Hey there, welcome back to another video. This is Bharat Divyan from the Join Academy, and today we'll start with a puzzle. So, the Black Knight just moved from e5 back to d7. If you were playing white, what would your continuation be? What would be the winning sequence of moves for white? Pause the video here, take a moment. If required, set this position on the board if you're serious about it. Try and spend some time looking into the board and observing all the nuances in this position. And then see if you can actually find the solution. This is what I call productive struggle. Productive struggle is a very important step towards ultra learning, learning well, learning deep. So if you want to ever learn chess at a very deep level, definitely you need to go through the productive struggle. So all the best. Um, Pause the video here and get back once you have gone through the process. Okay, welcome back. I hope you were able to think through the problem and see what the continuation is. And actually, it's wonderful. Rook takes knight. Queen can't take it because then you have the royal fork. So queen still has to control the square. Bishop takes it, but that doesn't stop this check. And you might just think that, okay, the worst case is that he's going to lose the rook, and therefore it'll be like rook and bishop against rook and bishop. But that's not true because this ends the game here. So again, time to ponder. So just pause the video here, think through this position and see what are the options for black. What can black do here? And if he does each one of them, what's going to be your next step? So let's take through this, right? Like the king is under check. He can move to one of these three squares. That's one possibility. The other one is the queen can capture the knight. Now, this is pretty trivial because if the queen captures the knight, the queen captures it back, and then you have a rook and bishop for a rook and bishop, a queen for a rook, 7 pawns against 6 pawns. I think it's a fairly clear advantage for white from here to win the game. So let's now say that this has been rejected. The queen taking the knight has been rejected. We don't want to do that. What about the others? So if you are a really good chess player, you can just say like, oh, this is like winning for white and just leave it at that. But if you're really, really good, then you definitely want to understand which among these three moves is the best and worst. I mean, they're all bad, but you should still be able to sort them out and say that this is the worst among the worst options, right? So in this case, it's going to be uh, in this case, if the king has to move, the worst option is going to be this, because if that is the case, then if king comes to g7, then knight takes rook check, and wherever the king goes, it's checkmate. So if he goes here, it's queen g7 checkmate, and if he goes back here, then g7 checkmate, thanks to the knight supporting the queen. And if he goes here, even this would be checkmate. Queen checking and giving a support to the knight through the check, where the king can't really capture the knight. So among the three options, g7 is the worst. So let's get rid of that. Now, between these two, what are the possibilities? So you could say, okay, let me move to h8. Now it's a very clear discovered check attacking the queen. The queen really can't do anything. If the king moves here, you capture the queen and you get back. And you're kind of getting back to the same situation there was if the queen had decided to capture the knight in the very first place. So I would say among the four options, this and this would be roughly the same because eventually you're going to lose the queen. But what about the king coming here? In that case, also, you would do the exact same thing, which is basically the queen and threaten a checkmate. Remember in one of the videos we talked about the double attack, but not attacking two different pieces, but one being an attack and one being a threat. So this is an example of something like that, a double attack involving a threat. And if the queen decides to escape or move the attack, then it's checkmate. And if the queen, I mean, if he has to stop it, the only way he can do that is through this and then eventually get back to the same position. So if you see from this perspective of giving this check here, and you say, okay, there are four possibilities here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. you'll realize that the worst among them is going to be king to g7, because that's checkmate straight away. And if you get rid of that and you look at the remaining three, almost all three of them are identical in that the queen and the knight are going to get out of the board. And what's going to be left is white winning the game pretty comfortably. So this is the position, and I hope you really enjoyed it. But the thought process is a little bit deeper here, which is, how did white even decide? I mean, how did white even get the situation? Was he lucky enough to stumble upon it? And the answer is no. The answer is, if you go back a couple of moves, you realize that this is created. Because just a few moves back in this position, it looks like any normal opening. But white creates the opportunity by attacking. Pawn takes it, knight moves. And immediately, once the knight moves, this h7 squares the weakness. So he immediately brings the bishop, attacks it. Knight can't go back. There is an entire attack here. And thereby, kind of forcing black to push this pawn and creating the weaknesses in this diagonal. Now, it doesn't have a dark colored bishop, but he decides to use the queen to be able to move that. This is called synthesizing your pieces in order to achieve a goal. So he decides to bring the knight, threatening to kind of get this part. He's okay sacrificing the pawn precisely because he sees the attack. The long diagonal, the knight here, all of this has been building towards, is waiting for this to happen. Is there a way black could have defended? Yes, there are many ways in which he could have defended it, but in almost all of those cases, white is going to have some kind of positional advantage. So the lesson for us here as chess players is to say that it's not always going to happen in a game that you will just stumble upon these magical combinations. These magical combinations emerge because of your relentless pursuit of checkmates, threats to checkmate, attacks, combinations, search for combination, thinking tactically. When you do all of this, kind of tactical combos arise out of this pursuit. So as a chess player, you always have to study how one can, attack your opponent. How can you destroy the defenses? So in fact, this entire study for me is about destroying defenses. That's the reason I'm trying to collect games which have this idea of how to destroy opponents' defenses and how to actually create attacks and threats in whatever position you're across. So please be on the lookout for more such games, more such analysis, more such ideas to break and destroy defenses that you will see. If you like this video, please do like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.